This is something a lot of people, when we think about nursing home, we almost always think, it's the older folks, the 80 and 90-year-olds are in the nursing homes. But what
Right.
what makes up the population of a nursing home? Because many people don't think a lot of these morbid obese people they end up in nursing homes because they can't care for themselves anymore. So what does your population look like in general?
So most of them are elderly, like
Mhm.
you're saying. Although that's what I'm trying to get into more of this to get them at a younger age, because there's a lot of people that have nursing home problems at younger and younger ages. People are getting dementia in their 50s
Mhm.
and Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
People are getting Parkinson's in their early 60s. There's a lot of diseases of old age are getting younger and younger,
Mhm.
it seems like. And obviously, the earlier you catch them, the better outcomes you're going to get. We had a girl who was in our nursing home that was 38. We've had 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds. Most of them are 70 and up.
Mhm.
We've had 100-year-old people. The oldest I had was 105. So it's a wide range. It's more of the people who have issues than it is the age. We'll get 60-year-old people in there too. So there's things called skilled nursing facilities
Mhm.
that are sort of more hospital
Right.
nursing homes where they'll get very old people, but they'll get younger people who are in very, very bad shape and need doctors and nurses kind of around the clock.
Yeah, I can remember sending patients to SNFs or skilled nursing facilities. It was sometimes very hard to get them in. Sometimes they're always full, and it was a challenge. You have people
They
got
are. Well,
horrible, after a horrible accident or something, they need round the clock care still, but they're not
right.
sick enough to be in the hospital. But yeah, no, it's terrifying to think about it. People in their 40s and 50s now developing dementia, which is just, I can't imagine what it does to the rest of the family, because as you probably are very aware, it's a very time and costly thing to deal with. I mean, it's not a cheap diagnosis, and it really can devastate. I can't imagine being 22 years old and my 50-year-old father now has dementia, and I've got to deal with that somehow. What do you do when you're a kid like that? I can imagine it's challenging. What do this is interesting, because my grandmother was in a nursing home after, I think she was about 88 or 89 or something, went in there and spent about 2 or 3 years there, and then finally passed away. But she was demented. She had Alzheimer's disease. And I can remember specifically prior to that, even maybe 10 years prior to that, she was just, all she wanted to do, and she was never overweight. She was a small woman. All she wanted to do is eat cookies and cake and sweets all the time. That was all. And some people will say that dementia is a problem with brain energy, and you can't get enough energy, so you're constantly seeking sweet. Did you see that prior to with the dementia patients?
Yes.
All they want to do is eat the dessert.
I joke with my caregivers that we're running a drug rehab, not really an assisted living home, because I have all kinds of stories of residents trying to manipulate my caregivers. If one of them won't, give them all their sweets, they'll go to the next one. They're just dying to get sweets. And what always cracks me up is I see one of the hardest things is to get families to stop bringing sweets in. They think they're doing, making mom happy by bringing her some ice cream or some candy bars or something like that. And I try to tell them, don't do that. But when I suggest a carnivore diet, they go, well, we should probably run that by a doctor and make sure it's okay. And I'm like, really? They've eaten meat all their life, but now it's a problem? But the sweets are totally fine. We don't need to run that by anyone. And it's not just nursing homes. I go visit my residents when they go to the hospital and bring them flowers or just check on them and things like that when I can. COVID kind of slowed that down. But I was in the hospital one time with a lady who was in very, very bad shape, close to the end of the life. And a nurse comes in and orders a lunch for her. And the lunch she orders is macaroni and cheese and chocolate. Mm. And I even said to the nurse, does that make sense that that's something you should feed this lady? And she's like, well, I'm just trying to make her happy. Like, wow, this is a big problem.
Yeah, obviously you mentioned this is a business, and obviously with business, you're concerned about cost constraints. And so I think many of these institutions, they look at what's the cheapest food we can feed these people, and that often is why they're being fed what they're fed. I think it happens, quite frankly, pretty much everywhere at this point. But, when you first started to say, hey, I'm going to try this carnivore diet on people. How did that go? I mean, how did you like, I mean, how did you approach
Well,
folks, and did you get a lot of
I'm
resistance?
doing it sort of one folks at a time.
Right. Got it.
I've had people I've started on that backed off it. I think I've noticed, and that you may be able to help me with this. Like one guy I started it on suddenly had to go to the bathroom a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering if he's got a lifetime of toxins that are kind of starting to get out of his body. But normally, like I'm on the carnivore thing and feel great. And I hardly use the toilet at all. I mean, number one, I use normally, but number two, I try to, I basically look for people I want to get better. I don't want to just sit here. The ones that say, just leave me alone. I want to watch my TV. I don't even bring it up. But there's two residents that I'm very excited about. One, I've contracted with an insurance company to take their bariatric residents, very overweight. And they gave me their first one in October. She came into us at 548 pounds. And I sat down with her. She was in a sniff and said, you follow my program to the letter or you stay here. I don't want to bring you in if you just want to continue what you're doing, because you can do that here, no problem at all. You're going to be a big burden on my caregivers. But if you really want to get better, I'll bring you in. And she agreed. I hired a nutritionist who is a big fan of John Jacquish and the X3 program that you're familiar with, I think, Shawn. Mm-hmm. And I paid him to work with her, and the insurance company is paying me. She came in October 5th. We've got her on a almost all carnivore diet. We've got some intermittent fasting, and she has like high carb and low carb days. The high carb days aren't a lot of carbs, but just try to help her not, have a huge radical change. But since October 5th, we weighed her December 15th. And she's gone from 548 pounds to 413 pounds.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's
135 pounds lost. Yeah. I'm over the moon. She's having her boyfriend come in. And the great thing is she's starting to shower by herself. She's starting to cook by herself. It's working. And I am not only getting the sniff saying we've got more people to send you, this is amazing, but like my referral agents that bring me people, who are all slightly overweight, are all like, you got to tell me what you're doing. I want to do this. So it's spreading. It's neat.